Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Wednesday, September 7th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. If you're looking for my MLB best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet, so check it out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday, September 7th. First up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the New York Yankees in a doubleheader. Game 1, 3:05 Eastern. Game 2, 7:35 Eastern. I want to mention, before we get into the game, we've been messing around with the audio settings a little bit. I got a new microphone, as most of you can see, and sometimes the volume's been a little bit too low, sometimes a little bit too much, so trying to find that happy medium. Hopefully this sounds pretty good for you guys. But in this game, in this doubleheader, Domingo Germán and Gerrit Cole are the projected starters for the Yankees for these two games. Now, I'm not sure exactly where each starter will go. That's why we don't give out official plays on the rundown for doubleheader games anymore. But I do think Gerrit Cole will have a strong start in this one against the Twins. Domingo Germán, not my favorite starter to back for the New York Yankees. And Minnesota Twins more than likely going to be giving Joe Ryan the ball in one of these games. I don't love him in this spot as he's not been pitching well on the road this season. He's given up a good amount of home runs away from home. And now you're facing a Yankees lineup that has the home run leader in Aaron Judge at Yankee Stadium, a very hitter-friendly ballpark for the home run ball, as some people say it's a Little League ballpark with how short the dimensions are in left and right field. But I do think this is going to be a tough one for Ryan, so I'm looking to back the Yankees when Ryan's on the mound and when Gerrit Cole's on the mound if they face off against each other. And then I'm not really loving the Yankees when Domingo Germán's on the mound. If it's Germán versus Ryan, I'd lean towards the over. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're going to see Jacob deGrom and Bryce Wilson for Game 1, and then Johan Oviedo and Chris Bassett for Game 2. To me, the Mets are the better team lineup-wise, bullpen-wise, and both of these starting pitching matchups, I think they have the advantage. So they've been playing in a lot of doubleheader games this season. They know how to manage that bullpen in terms of doubleheader situations, and I think that there's no reason that they can't sweep this doubleheader. I think this is a big series, even though you're facing a pretty weak opponent that's not going to have, that's not going to hurt you in your own division. But the Braves are catching on. The lead in the NL East is slim for the Mets right now, and this is certainly a series where you're facing a well below 500 team. You got to win these types of games, and I know it's not easy to sweep both games of a doubleheader, but there's no reason for me to think that the Mets are going to take their foot off the pedal if they win Game 1 but with deGrom on the mound. So I think they're going to win both games. I'm going to lean towards the Mets on the money line in a two-game parlay, a doubleheader parlay, Mets money line Game 1 and Game 2. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Colorado Rockies. Eric Lauer and Kyle Freeland are the projected starters. I think we're going to see some runs in this game. I like the over. Even though the Brewers have not been great against left-handed pitching this season, Kyle Freeland has not pitched well at Coors Field at all this year, an ERA above 6, and I don't really trust this Rockies bullpen either. And when you look on the other side, Eric Lauer, another lefty on the mound, I don't really love what I've seen from him as of late. His start against the Diamondbacks last time out wasn't too bad, obviously, only giving up 2 earned runs in 6 2/3 innings, but the strikeout numbers for him are down a little bit. His ERA on the road is above 4 right now, 4.03. And when you look at the Rockies' bats at Coors Field, not only are they strong against righties, but they've been good against lefties as well. And overall, in the last 30 days, the Rockies are number 10 in team OPS and number 10 in isolated power against those lefties. So I think we see some scoring early and often. Give me the over in this Rockies-Brewers game. In our next game, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Oakland Athletics. We're going to see Spencer Strider and Ken Waldichuk on the mound for this one. A pair of young pitchers going at it, and we saw Waldichuk make his MLB debut. He was acquired by the A's in that Frankie Montas trade. In his first start in the major leagues, he faced the Washington Nationals. Now, the A's did lose that game in the end, but that was in extra innings. Waldichuk went 4 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 earned run with 6 strikeouts. So the strikeouts very impressive, but he did walk 4 batters. He gave up 5 base hits, so a lot of runners on the base pads. And that's a little bit of a concerning factor when you're facing an Atlanta Braves lineup, obviously a much stronger offense than the Washington Nationals. So I do think that the Braves will be able to get to Waldichuk, especially if the control issues are still there. But definitely a nice sign to see with those strikeout numbers, 6 Ks through 4 2/3 innings, exactly what you want to see from a young starter. Now on the other side, Spencer Strider, what more can be said about him? He's got to be up there in the NL Rookie of the Year voting in terms of one of the favorites, and the Braves honestly have 2 of the top favorites to win that award, and Michael Harris having such a great year in the outfield this season. But I think Spencer Strider continues to pitch well. I think the Braves bats will back him up, so give me the Atlanta Braves here on the run line. I also lean towards the under in this one. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Los Angeles Angels. We're going to see Drew Hutchison and Patrick Sandoval as the projected starters. I think this is a pitching mismatch. I don't love the Tigers' offense away from home. And even against lefties, where they've been better overall this season, they're still not doing much against lefties. In fact, they're dead last in isolated power in the last 30 days. They're 25th in team OPS. Their strikeout numbers aren't the greatest. So I do think that the advantage definitely goes to Patrick Sandoval and the Angels, and a team that's playing much better, I would say, in the last 2 weeks or so than they were about 2 months ago when they started their demise after a real hot start to the year. But Shohei Ohtani looking like he could be the AL MVP. We'll have to see what happens. But Drew Hutchison, I don't love this matchup for him. He's not a guy that's going to earn a lot of strikeouts, and although his ERA is pretty good away from home this season, I don't like the fact that he doesn't miss a lot of bats. He's given up 3 home runs in his last 2 starts, and those were against well below 500 teams in the Rangers and Royals. I think the Angels get to him for a few here. Give me the Angels on the run line. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Seattle Mariners. No official starter for the White Sox quite yet. We should see Luis Castillo going for the Mariners. Now, I like what I'm seeing from Castillo with his new team. He's really only had one bad performance in his first few starts with the Seattle Mariners, and that was against the Oakland A's back on August 21st. But that was on the road, and I like what I'm seeing from him in his last 2 starts after that game against the Cleveland Guardians, back-to-back outings, and he went 12 innings with 14 strikeouts, only 1 earned run allowed, and only 2 walks allowed combined. So he's missing bats, he's limiting walks, limiting home runs overall this season, which is the walks and homers. Sometimes he's had an issue with those in his career at times, but overall, pitching well this season. The White Sox, they could certainly use a win in this game, but I think they're facing the toughest arm in this Mariners rotation, a really good Mariners rotation. So give me the Mariners and a lean here on the money line. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Alex Cobb and Clayton Kershaw are the projected starters. Alex Cobb's somebody I'd like to back quite a bit this season, and especially when he's pitching at Oracle Park, where he's got that 2.57 ERA, but away from home just hasn't been the same. 48 innings pitched, he's got an ERA above 5, and against the Dodgers in 12 innings this season, he's given up 7 earned runs, so a 5.25 ERA in that stretch against LA. He hasn't given up a home run. His strikeout numbers are good against the Dodgers, but I still can't trust him away from home. I think the Dodgers have the best lineup against right-handed pitching, so I think that the offense shows up there for LA. But on the other side, San Francisco, we saw in the first game of this series, they got to a lefty in Andrew Heaney, and I think they'll be able to score a few runs on Clayton Kershaw to get this game over the total. Pretty high total for this one. It's set at 9 in a pretty pitcher-friendly ballpark. 2 pitchers that have solid ERAs and solid numbers. Clayton Kershaw, obviously, one of the better pitchers in the National League, but still a very high total, and I think that's for good reason. The Giants have definitely hit lefties better than righties this season, and that goes for the last 30 days as well. San Francisco top 10 in team OPS and isolated power. They're actually 4th in isolated power against southpaws in the last month. So give me the over in this Giants-Dodgers matchup. I also don't love this Giants bullpen, so I think the Dodgers can continue to score late in the late innings. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. No official lineup for this game quite yet, so we could see a pitching change, but right now Nick Pivetta and Jeffrey Springs are the projected starters. And Jeffrey Springs, he faced this Red Sox lineup back on August 27th. He gave up 5 earned runs in 6 innings of work, but he had 8 strikeouts in that game. But on the other side, Nick Pivetta also faced the Rays, and he finished the game 5 innings, 8 base hits, 5 earned runs, and 2 homers. So 2 starting pitchers that struggle against the opposition, but I do trust Jeffrey Springs at home here, where he's had really good numbers at Tropicana Field. And the Red Sox numbers offensively, I would prefer to take them against a righty than a lefty. At home this season, Springs is 3-2 with a 1.91 ERA. He's got 51 strikeouts and 47 home innings, an opponent's batting average of .225 and only 6 home runs allowed. I think he pitches well. I think it's a bounce-back outing for him against the Red Sox. And overall this season, he's faced them for 12 innings. He's got 15 strikeouts. I like the fact that he's missing some bats, even though he has gotten hit here and there. I think he bounces back at Tropicana Field. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Rays on the money line. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. A pair of lefties going at it in this one, Trevor Rogers and Bailey Falter. Now, when I see a lefty on the mound facing this Miami Marlins lineup, it's almost an auto fade, and I don't really love the price that we see here with Philadelphia, but the Marlins, they have been near the bottom in most important hitting metrics against lefties all season long. very high strikeout rate. The team OPS and isolated power numbers are not good. So I think Falter has a good start, especially look at his last start against the Arizona Diamondbacks. He went 6 1/3, giving up only 1 earned run with 6 strikeouts. He's had 6 strikeouts in each of his last 2 starts now, and the Phillies have won all 4 of his last 4 starts. So I think Falter pitches well, but on the other side, I think Trevor Rogers has a good outing. We saw him return to the major leagues, and he against the Tampa Bay Rays, August 31st, 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, only 1 earned run allowed, only 1 walk allowed, no home runs. So starting to see the Rogers that we saw last year, where he was one of the better young pitchers in the league. This was a disappointing season for him overall, but still some time to show what he's got, and I think this is going to be a good start for him. The Philadelphia Phillies against left-handed pitching have been very good in the last month. However, a 4.13 BABIP against lefties in the last month is not sustainable. So I think we're going to see those numbers regress a little bit as the month continues into September, in the middle of September. So give me the under in this Phillies-Marlins game. I lean towards the Phillies, but I don't love this price, so give me the under. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Dean Kremer and Alec Manoa are the projected starters. Alec Manoa is pitching very well for the Blue Jays now. His team hasn't always backed him up offensively, but in his last 3 starts, he went 6 innings against the Yankees, 1 earned, 8 strikeouts. Against the Angels after that, he went 7 innings, 1 earned, 8 strikeouts. Both of those games were losses, as the Blue Jays scored a combined 2 runs in those games, but definitely not his fault. And his last start against the Pirates, 7 1/3, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts. The Blue Jays did get the win in that game, and I think they're going to win this game as well on the road. You know, the Orioles are starting to slip a little bit in terms of the win column, and Dean Kremer is a starting pitcher that I do think will regress as the season continues. His xFIP and FIP a lot higher than his current ERA. A lot of it has to deal with the strikeout numbers only having 68 Ks in 89 innings pitched. So I do trust the Blue Jays here. Give me Toronto on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Chicago Cubs. Mike Minor for the Reds and Javier Assad for the Cubbies. Now, maybe I'm losing my mind, but I actually trust Mike Minor in this game more than Javier Assad. I don't know how many times I've said I trust Mike Minor this season, but he's been pitching pretty well in his last 2 starts. 11 2/3 innings, only 4 earned runs allowed with 8 strikeouts. Listen, it's not the best numbers, but it's not the worst, and he's facing a Cubs lineup that have not been good against lefties in the last month. When you look at their numbers, team OPS ranked 26th in the league, isolated power numbers ranked 25th, so Mike Minor, a veteran starter, it looks like he's getting better as the season continues. His numbers are certainly a little bit better on the road than away from Great American Ballpark. And Javier Assad, I don't expect him to go too deep into this game. He's got 6 strikeouts in 10 innings. I don't love that. He's also got 6 walks allowed in those 10 innings, so a 1-to-1 walk-to-strikeout ratio, usually no bueno. And the Reds lineup is not great, but I do think when you see 2 teams that are well below 500, you got to find some small differences to find a winner. I think the value is going to be on Cincinnati. There's no official line out for this game, so we'll have to see what the price is, but I would expect the Reds on the road to be the underdog. So if we're getting plus money here with who I believe is a better starting pitcher, I'll take it. Give me the Cincinnati Reds on the money line. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Jordan Montgomery and Corey Abbott are the starters. And Jordan Montgomery's pitching well at Busch Stadium in his first few starts with his new team. I think he's good enough here to get the win, and I think the Cardinals bats will back him up for a run line cover as well. I don't love Corey Abbott. This season he's gone 26 2/3 innings, giving up 6 home runs already, 13 walks as well. Now, 24 strikeouts isn't too bad, but he's also not a guy that's going to go too deep into games. And although the Nationals bullpen's been pretty good in the last month, I don't know if I can trust it to go 5 innings or more here. I think the Cardinals are just a better team, so give me the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't love the price here, so probably a stay-away game for me altogether, but I'll lean towards the Cardinals on the run line. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals hosting the Cleveland Guardians. We see Zach Greinke going for Kansas City. No official starter for the Guardians quite yet. You know, Zach Greinke's pitched really well against this Guardians lineup. He's got a .84 ERA through about 10 2/3 innings pitched. And in Kauffman Stadium this season, he's got 54 2/3 innings pitched, a 1.98 ERA. 30 strikeouts is not great, but he's not really a strikeout pitcher these days, so he keeps the ball on the ground. He's only given up 1 home run in those 54 innings, so he knows how to pitch at Kauffman Stadium, and he keeps his team in the ball games, and he's got a winning record of 4-2 in his Kauffman Stadium starts, so I think it's worth a shot to take the underdog here. We can expect them to be the underdog when this line comes out. And I also lean towards the under in this one. I think it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game overall. So I'll lean towards the Royals and the under in this one. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Houston Astros. No official starter for the Rangers quite yet. Christian Javier should be going for the Astros. You know, not my favorite game on the board. We don't have a lot of information for this one yet, so I'm just going to lean towards the over. I think if the Rangers go with a bullpen game, the Astros offense should be able to take advantage. I think this is one of the weaker bullpens in baseball that the Rangers have, and I think the Astros, obviously one of the better lineups in the American League. So I do think Houston has the advantage there. But, Christian Javier just faced this Rangers lineup in his most recent outing back on August 31st, and he did give up a home run. He gave up 3 earned as well, 3 walks, 4 base hits, and only 5 innings of work. So I do think the Rangers could get to him for a few runs. I'll lean towards the over, but like I said, not rushing to the window for this one. Next up, our final game of the night, we see the San Diego Padres hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tommy Henry and Yu Darvish are the projected starters. And, Tommy Henry's got an ERA of 4.83. Yu Darvish has been one of the better pitchers for the Padres this season. So I can understand why the line is where it is at Padres minus 210. But I don't know. I don't think I can get behind it. I do think Tommy Henry is a better starting pitcher than what his ERA suggests, even though I'm kind of going against the xFIP and the expected ERA numbers. They say that there actually is some regression to worry about in this game, but I've been able to watch him quite a bit, and I do think he's solid. I mean, he's given up only 3 home runs in 31 2/3 innings pitched. That is less than a home run per 10 innings, so you like to see that from a young pitcher. The strikeout numbers aren't great overall this year, 23 Ks in 31 innings, but we've seen against the St. Louis Cardinals back on August 19th, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, and that's a team that A, crushes lefties, and B, doesn't strike out much at all. So to miss that many bats and only give up 1 earned run in that start, very impressive. Now, his most recent outing was not good. It was against the Phillies. He gave up 7 earned runs, but he didn't give up a single home run in that game. I do think he bounces back here against the Padres lineup that has not been good at all against lefties. They're ranked 23rd in the league in team OPS and 28th in the league in isolated power against southpaws in the last 30 days. So to me, that's not minus 210 worthy. I know Darvish has been good. I know he's had success against the Diamondbacks, but this Diamondbacks team has hit righties very well. They don't strike out much. They've been playing very well in the underdog role, especially on the run line. So I think this is going to be a close game. I think Diamondbacks have a chance to win it outright. I'm going to lean towards Arizona plus 1.5, and I'm going to take a little sprinkle on the money line as well, getting plus money. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday, September 7th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.